This conference will now be recorded.
Are you getting my voice? Okay. And as well as my screen? Yes. Okay. So on yesterday, what we have discussed here. So just we have started about introduction to cloud computing and what is the reason to go for either cloud or a cloud computing platform, right? And we discussed it with some example. So if you want to host a website, so what are the things we require? So basically we need to buy a group of servers. High traffic means more servers. Monitoring and maintenance of servers are required, right? So these are the some basic things which are discussed. So if you want to host a particular website, so now here we're having some disadvantages. So some disadvantage also is there. So if you want to host a particular website, okay, like servers and setup cost is going to high, right? So here server is nothing but whatever the laptops or even the desktops in which you have purchased. So we can convert that laptop to a server by installing some softwares inside of it. There is nothing but what is exactly server. So here these servers, first of all we need to purchase, it can be a laptop or desktops, we need to purchase some machines as well, right? Then only we can convert these things into server. And that is the reason I have mentioned here servers and setup cost is high, because the servers or these whatever the servers, if you have purchased, let us assume I have purchased some 20 servers, okay, or 20 machines. So I have converted these machines to servers, okay, but even this 20 servers is not enough, okay, because the reason is websites, if you go for any website, right, for any website, so definitely we're going to get n number of visitors on particular day. That visitors is not a constant. So definitely it is going to increase at some point of time, it is going to decrease that respective customers as well, right? So whenever if a customers are increased at rapidly, right, this 20 servers is not at all enough. Okay, so that is the reason sometimes we are not able to get some response if you are accessing some sites, because that website was not able to hold that many of requests here. It can handle only maybe some 5,000 requests or maybe some 10,000 requests. Beyond that, it was not able to handle. Okay, because the lack of servers. What we can say that. Okay, so here troubleshooting problems definitely conflict your existing business. Okay, troubleshooting problems means at some point of time the website is down, right? What is the reason that website is down? Any lack of emission, or is any server is down, or maybe some network issue, connectivity issue, internet issue, maybe some any, it can be any reason. So that thing we need to sort it out. Okay, so the type of issues what we're calling as in troubleshooting problems basically. Okay, so as I mentioned you, traffic to a particular website is also not a constant. Okay, and even amount of space for a particular website is also not a constant. Yesterday we discussed with some examples as well, right? And finally we have concluded that in order to host for a particular website, right, local system and bunch of servers are not at all sufficient or not at all enough. So in order to overcome the above limitations or disadvantages, right, we are moving to cloud or a cloud computing platforms. One of the cloud computing platforms is Azure. Okay, so now what is a cloud? Cloud is having unlimited space or collection of data centers. Okay, so now what is a data center? Data is within this data center. Data is nothing but information. Nowadays we are getting huge amount of data, and we discussed that indirectly humans itself we are generating huge amount of data either knowingly or unknowingly. Okay, by accessing so many sites. Okay, so it can be social networking sites or maybe some YouTube, Google, Gmail. So these are the uh, if you observe, most of the users is going to access these sites only, right? Irrespective of other sites what we have basically. So that is the reason indirectly humans are generating huge amount of data. Okay, so now the question is where we are storing this much amount of data basically. Okay, we are storing this much amount of data on servers. Okay, so that server, which this data is stored on a server that is highly configured. So here the keyword highly configured means it should operate 24 cross 7, large amount of RAM and hard disk, some security concerns, right? So we need to implement some firewalls. So many things we need to implement on a particular server. What I mean to say. Okay. So now a collection of these servers are known as racks. A collection of these racks are stored in a building or a multiple buildings in which we are calling as a data center. A collection of these data centers are known as cloud. Okay. So now what is cloud computing then? So cloud computing is majorly three keywords. One is storing data, processing the data, and accessing the data. These are the simple three keywords. So we can say that what is exactly cloud computing. Okay. And finally, we have defined what is exactly Azure. Okay, Azure is one of the cloud computing vendor from Microsoft, right? So Azure is a cloud solution which provides lots of services and features to help your organization in almost all the way during the development of any product or project by providing multiple tools and technologies. This is nothing but what is exactly Azure. So within this Azure, we're having so many services, right? So like artificial intelligence or maybe some big data, Power BI, MySQL, we're having so many services. Out of these many of services, we are learning about Azure DevOps. DevOps is one of the integral part of the service of Azure. Okay, Azure DevOps is a future or a service from Azure. Okay, and then we have started about what is the need of DevOps or what is the reason to go for DevOps. Okay, these things we discussed yesterday. So any doubts on this yesterday session? Any of you? Any doubts? So if you are fine, so we can continue further.
Yeah, yeah, we are fine.
So all of you seeing my screen? Some of you mentioned not seeing my screen.
Yeah, I can see.
So if anybody is not seeing my screen, right, just you can try to relog in once again. Okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
So these things we discussed on yesterday. So today we're going to discuss about what is the necessity to go for DevOps. Okay, or what is the reason to go for DevOps concept. And yesterday we discussed about this SDLC, and within this SDLC, right? We discussed about different categories. So these are the different phases or different categories which is fall under SDLC. So like plan, code, build, test, deploy, operate, and finally monitor. And these categories or these phases of the SDLC belongs to multiple teams like business team or development team, operations team, right? And we have taken some example what this business some in companies, some companies they're calling as a business analyst or business team, anything is fine. Okay, majorly their intention is to gather the requirements from the client. That is the only main intention from the business team or a product owner, just to gather the n number of requirements from, it can be a single client or different clients. Okay, once we have got these requirements, okay, so like project manager, senior project managers, or maybe some project architects, okay, who are having some different hierarchies or different roles in that respective company, they're going to design some architecture of the application. Okay, so maybe initially they can go with some basic architecture. Maybe whenever this application development is going on day by day, so maybe they can add a new technologies on the existing architecture. It may happen, it depends upon the client. Okay, once this architecture is done, architecture, basic architecture designing is done, right? So out of these requirements, again they will divide these requirements into n number of tasks, and these tasks are divided or segregated or distributed to the n number of teams, like development team or testing team or maybe some database team, so like that. Okay, so this task, it is related to the database team. Okay, so then again the segregation is going to be done by maybe some project leads or team leads of that respect to concerned teams. So basically these things is going to happen. Okay, now here, what about this operations team? So as I mentioned you, once if you develop some application, right, once if you develop some application, this application finally, if you observe any application, final intention of this application is it need to access by client or n number of customers, right? So when this n number of customers is going to access, or n number of clients is going to access that specific application, is that application need to pass to different environments or multiple environments, like development environment, okay, testing environment, integration environment, pre-production environment, or production environment. These environments is going to vary from company to company. These environments is not fixed basically. Okay, so now here, if you want to deploy some code on integration or pre-production or production environments, this operations team is going to come into picture, where these developers or testers were not able to deploy some code on these specific environments. Okay, this generally they will call as a this development or testing environments or the lower environments. This integration or maybe some pre-production staging environments or production environments, these are the higher environments. Okay, some tasks they were not able to test on these lower environments here, because it may be lack of data. Okay, so data will be there in integration production environment only because the client is accessing the application, right? Whenever this client is accessing, definitely they are having huge amount of data on this respective environments here. Okay, let me mention these points. We are having different environments for the application development. One is development environment, testing, integration, production environment, and production environment. These are the different types of environments what we are having. If you want to develop some application, our end goal is whatever the application or whatever the requirements or whatever the tasks in which you're developing, right? So these need to access the different clients or different customers, whoever utilizing that respective application, right? But if you that finally if any client need to access that application, right, or new tasks or new features on the existing application, this application need to pass or need to go through this all these phases of this different environments. Each and every phase is very very important. Okay, if you go for this testing environment, so basically they're going to uh, they will do the different types of different types of testings. So like regression, some unit testing, or it can be some sanity testing. So different types of testings is there. Okay, so integration environment, basically it is on this integration environment, some tasks maybe they were not able to test on, maybe it can be on development on testing environment. So they will deploy that existing application on this integration environment. So maybe in integration environment they're going to find so many issues because it is having huge amount of data on integration environment when compared to testing and development environment. Some tasks they are not able to they're not able to test on lower environments. That may be the reason. So that is the reason they're going to testing is going to take place on higher environments like integration environment. Okay, so on this pre-production environment, mostly we don't have 90% we don't have any issues, but still there may be some issues. Okay, so most if you go for pre-production environment, maybe higher management is going to access the application, they're going to test, they're going to simply you can say that they're going to play the application. Okay, so maybe some business analyst or product owner. Okay, so whoever they're going to access the application on pre-production environment. And finally production environment, where real client is going to come into picture, they're going to utilize that respect to application. So these are the different environments what we are having. Okay, and even before this DevOps or even this SDLC, whatever the software development lifecycle which I have discussed, right? So we're having some different models like waterfall model, or maybe some nowadays each and every company they're going with some agile model. But still some startups even they're following some waterfall model. Initially they're going with some waterfall model, then slowly they're moving to agile model, right? So like that we're having so many different models is there. Okay, so we will discuss that respect to models now. Or if you observe this image or the screenshot, I have mentioned some different teams, right? So different teams will falls under different models basically. Okay, that things we're going to discuss now. So any doubts till now, any of you, you can ask it now. You can ask now. No doubts? Okay, we will continue further. So now, as I mentioned, you were having some different models, right? If you falls under waterfall model, all these three teams are independent to each other. Okay, so means this business team, development team, and operations team, they are independent to each other. Okay, so or we can simply say that they don't have any internal communication between these respective teams. They are working independently. Okay, if it falls under waterfall model. Okay, because of this reason, so they're going to get so many issues whenever the application development is going on because of the lack of communication between them. If you falls under waterfall model, but if you falls under agile model, agile model, both business team and development team will work together for success of the product. Okay, so once if it is found on some agile model, both these teams like business team and this product team, business team and this product team is going to work together for the success of the product. But still some gap is there in between
Sir?
development team and yes.
Sir?
Yes,
Yeah, I didn't get this waterfall model. I mean, what is that waterfall model?
we are discussing, right? So that is the reason I told you after the concept is then you can ask. Okay,
Okay, okay, okay. Sorry.
so now here, but still some gap is there in between development team and operations team. Okay, so in order to fulfill this gap, right, now we are going for DevOps. Okay, so now what is DevOps here? Basically, so nothing but development plus operations. Okay, so here in order to fulfill the gap between this development team and operation team, we are going for uh, a new technology called as a DevOps, development plus operation. Okay, so as I mentioned you in agile methodology, both business team and development will work together closely, right? Same way, because of this DevOps, right, so both this development and operation team will work together. Okay, same way, because of DevOps, both development and operations team will work together. Okay? Or we can simply define like this: DevOps is a practice which fills the gap between development team and the operations team. Okay, DevOps is a practice which fills the gap between development team and the operation team. So because of this DevOps and Agile methodology, both these teams, whatever the teams which are discussed, so complete these three teams is going to work together, entire this SDLC flow. I mean, entire the software development lifecycle is going on. So because of this DevOps and Agile methodology, so finally we're going to get the quality of the product. Okay, so majorly because of this DevOps, right? Now the quality of the application is so it is, we can say that there is no that much of issues in which you are facing previously because of this DevOps and Agile methodology. Okay, so this is the reason why every company that going for DevOps. Okay, is it fine till now? Any doubts here? Any of you?
Sir?
Yes.
Hello. The waterfall
Waterfall?
Waterfall model. I mean, what is it? Waterfall model.
No, basically just based upon the teams, they have defined that different types of models. That's it. Nothing specific that what is exactly waterfall model like that. Okay. Previously, this
Okay.
DevOps and even before this agile model, they're going to fall this waterfall model basically.
Okay.
So
Okay.
currently, we no need to worry about this waterfall agile model. Anyway, these things in detail, if you want, we will discuss in separate class called as in DevOps. We're having a separate process for the DevOps. There we're going to discuss. Okay, no need to
Okay.
worry at this point of time. Here, our main intention is so why we are going for cloud computing or why we are going for DevOps. That is our major intention. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. So now here, basically what this DevOps is going to done is, so whatever the repetitive work, okay, so whatever the repetitive work in which you are having, so that repetitive work it is going to be automated. Okay. So let us go for in development point of view, or it can be some developer is there working on some task. Okay. Once this development is done, or once his task is done, basically he will check whether the task is working correctly or not. Okay, just it is going to he is going to maybe he can go for basic testing basically. Okay, so whenever if it is going for some basic testing, so he is going to perform three tasks. Okay, so there we are having some predefined commands called as an build. Okay, otherwise we will discuss about before going for build. Sorry, we will discuss about web application. Then you're going to get the complete picture. What is this build directly? You don't know. So as I mentioned you, we are going to develop some web application in the real-time environments or in our companies or in our software organizations, right? So mostly each and every company they're going to develop some web applications, right? So first of all, what is a web application? The application which is having client server architecture, that type of web applications we are calling as a web application. So now we are going to discuss about basic architecture of web application. So this HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Angular, right? So these types of technologies we are calling as an front end basically. Okay. So now here Java, .NET, PHP, we're having so many things. These things we are calling as an middleware. And here we're having some MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL. So these things we are calling as an backend technologies. Okay. So let us assume, okay, so you are creating some, not creating, you want to create some new Gmail account. Okay, basically what you're doing, so you're giving some username password, whatever the username you want, and you're providing some password, your date of birth. These are all these things you're providing, right? Once if you click on the submit or save, this basically username password it is going to store in our this backend technologies. It can be some MySQL or Oracle. It can be any database basically. These are things what we're calling as in databases. Okay, so it can store in any database. Let us assume. Okay, it is stored in some MySQL database. Okay, now here whenever if you're trying to log in, right? So you're going to get some username password. So if you observe, we are going to get some interface to log into Gmail, right? So if you want to design that type of interfaces or the type of UI, right? So we can go with any of these technologies. It can be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, so many technologies there. So if you want to design that type of interfaces like a Gmail interface, right? So you can go with any of these technologies to design that type of interfaces basically. Okay, so we have assumed that we already created some Gmail account, right? Now we are trying to log into your new Gmail account by providing some username password, right? So whenever if you're providing some username password, let us assume you have given some wrong password. So whenever if you're given some wrong password, immediately it is displaying some message, right? Password mismatch or password is not matched. So something it is displaying some message, right? How it is happening here internally? Basically, whenever if you're giving some save or submit button, right? Or whenever if you're clicking on submit button, so already we have saved while creating the Gmail account. Already we have saved some username and password, right? So that username password and this whatever the from the front end you have given some username password. These two username passwords it is going to check in this middleware technologies. So if this username password is matched, right? So display welcome page as an inbox to the respect to Gmail user or respect to end user. If it is not matched, right? So display some password is not matched or email is not correct, something like that. So these things it is going to happen within the fraction of seconds. But this is the business logic what they implemented by Google organization or Google company basically. Okay, so here these things what we are calling as an request and responses. So you can give some request to the these middleware technologies. It is going to check whether the password is correct or not from the database. If it is not matched, right, it is going to display some user friendly messages to the end user. So these are the request and this is the response. Okay, so no need to worry about we need to learn these many of technologies. Just for understanding sake, I'm telling you. Okay, so we know it doesn't require any coding or these things. If you want to learn some Azure Admin plus DevOps, okay, just for this build command. So why when this build command is going to come into picture? So just I'm explaining you. Okay, so now here once if this is a basic architecture. Okay, first of all, this is a basic architecture. Okay, so once if you develop this type of application, right? This type of application. So this developer is going to execute a command called as an build command. Okay, a command called as a build command. Okay, so once if we execute this build command on this type of applications or on this type of web applications, right? So he is going to get either war or jar file. It can be anything. It can be war file or it can be jar file here, basically. Okay, once he got this, let us assume he got some jar file, right? Once he got this jar file, right? So he is going to deploy this jar file on any application server. Okay, so we're having so many application servers like Apache Tomcat or Nginx. We're having so many application servers. Okay, so as I mentioned you, this developer is going to work on development environment, right? So this development environment itself, they're going to have some application servers. So once he got this jar file, he is going to deploy this jar file on any of this server, maybe some application server. Okay, once he deployed this application on this server, he is going to have some user interface like maybe some Gmail like that. Okay, Gmail, how we are having some Gmail user interface, some user interface is going to have. He is going to provide some username password. So whether if it is matching, right, so he is going to display some page. If it is not matching, he need to get some message. So this is some requirement is there for that RESTful developer. Let us assume he already developed that type of requirement. Now he is going to test whether that requirement is fulfilled or not. So that is the reason he's going for a build command where he's going to get some jar file. He's going to deploy this jar file on any application server. Now he's going to get some user interface. He's going to cross check. This is nothing but a basic testing is going to done by any of the developer, basically. Okay, so if you observe, these are the three commands which is going to done by any developer. Nothing but one is build, deploy, and one more thing is test. And if you observe these three commands, right, which is a repetitive work which is done by developer. Okay, build and deploy. After build, they're going to get some jar file. So where they're going to deploy this jar file on any of the server by using this deploy command. And finally is going to test that respect to application, whether it is everything is working or not, right? So if you observe, this is a repetitive process. So like this, if you're having some repetitive process of uh, these repetitive steps is fall under any of these teams, maybe some business team or development team or maybe some operations team, right? So this repetitive process is going to be automated by using DevOps concept here. Okay, so this process is going to be automated by using DevOps. So just it is a, if you observe this process, just we have explained in the development team. Maybe this type of repetitive process we are having in maybe some in operation team or maybe some business team, right? So whatever these steps they are going to follow, if there is a, if that steps are repetitive, right, then we can make it we can make it as an automated by using the DevOps concept. Okay, so is the concept is clear, all of you? Any doubts here?
Clear,
Any
sir.
doubts? Any of you? Okay, so don't worry about this technologies, so or this application, these things. So these many of technologies we will not learn. Just to give overview on where this build command is going to come into picture. Just we have discussed. That's it. Okay. We will not discuss any of these technologies. Just to give overview about what is web application, where this DevOps is coming to picture. Here DevOps is coming to picture, but we don't need to worry about this front end middleware. These things we doesn't require. Okay, fine, all of you. So most of you maybe you're having that maybe we need to learn some coding, or do we require to learn some programming like that. So we doesn't require any of these things. Okay, but basically we're in our upcoming classes somewhere we're going to discuss about some basics of Linux commands, right? Or even these commands, it is already available within this Microsoft documents. Okay, already Microsoft is having so many inbuilt documents online, okay, where you can utilize the trustworthy documents or inbuilt commands is there. So just you can copy paste it, but based upon your requirement you need to modify. So how to modify these, all these things we will discuss in detail in our upcoming classes basically. Okay, so no need to worry about this coding, or do we require some basic programming knowledge already to learn this Azure DevOps or these things. So first of all, DevOps does not have any type of coding or even this Azure admin as well. Already codes already is available in Microsoft Docs. Just we need to modify based upon our requirement. How to modify these, all these things we are going to discuss in detail, or where we need to get these codes also we will discuss. Okay. Currently, no need to worry.
Shiva, this is Rajesh. Sorry to interrupt you in the middle.
Yes,
I
yes,
have a
yes. Tell
question
me.
I have a question what else prerequisite skills that is required to in order to pursue this DevOps degree?
So your voice is breaking, but your question is, what are the prerequisites to learn DevOps? You mean to say?
Yes, yes, exactly. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That is
So
the my
this is
question.
yes. So here, if you require, let us assume some concept is required, some prerequisites. Let us assume. Okay. So these all the prerequisites we are covering inbuilt within this course. So this is the best example, right? So I want to explain some build command. So where this build command coming to exist? So you have got some var view, right? Where we are using some build command. So like that, if some concept is required, some prerequisites concepts, right? So definitely we're going to discuss whenever that concept came into picture. Okay, you don't need to worry about any prerequisites of this. We're going to discuss in detail. Okay, Rajesh,
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
any doubts still? Any of you?